people sort of don't remember the 19th century, but remember that's the century where West met East. That's when really the Industrial Revolution, all of these things really started happening. The American Civil War, you had failed industrialization in Egypt. Marxism started in 1848, but there's a lot of ideological interest in the 19th century. And not just to sort of sneak peek, I believe that the 19th century learnings are actually the most relevant these days. It's been sort of a running investment thesis. I went to Harvard Law School not to make a lot of money. I went to Harvard Law School to be a public defender. And so you should know that. And then, ironically, I broke into private equity when it was still a very tiny business and was there for, still do it, for a long time. I've owned a lot of very branded companies and very consumer-facing companies. So a lot of, it makes sense to me now, but it's where the rational meet the irrational. Why do you love something? Some of it is irrational and very emotional. And this was before people really understood the brain science of emotions. So they thought that emotions were in your heart, rational thinking is here. Of course, we know everything is here. I am going to talk about my experience running a company called Ashley Stewart as a case study. I think that case study, the world didn't understand when I did it, why I did it, but why I wrote a book now is that the world has sort of caught up a bit and said, the issues that you are addressing in the book, those are the issues we're addressing now. So in some ways, I think my life during Ashley Stewart was maybe 15 to 20 years ahead of where the world was. And so I think that's why there's interest in the story now. People didn't understand it back then. I am a father of 3 kids, and I'm a son of 2 Korean immigrants who survived the Korean War. My dad was a doctor, my mom was a nurse, we both passed away. It's a caregiving family. Long story short, they survived the war. I am a son of war survivors, and that is also very important. Right? So that sets the table about the voice that you're going to hear. I think mostly I'd rather you just describe me or think of me as I'm a humanist. I care very deeply about people, and I don't understand why sometimes they design systems that are not long-term good for them. That's the quandary I've had my entire life. Why do they do that? I don't understand. So the talk today will be making difficult things that you can't put your finger on, something that you can put your finger on. And I think this is an important theme today because the world, increasingly over the last 10, 20 years, particularly over the last 2 years, people love, right? If it's not in a binary, if it's not 0 or 1-able, or if it's not quantifiable exactly, it's not important. We've increasingly sort of been going that way, and we're going that way, right? Because the idea is that if you can't put it in code, or if you can't put a dollar figure on it, it's not measurable, and if it's not measurable, then it's not rational, it's not sophisticated. Only unsophisticated people talk about unmeasurable things, which is ridiculous, because let's talk about the value of humanity and love and family and warmth. You can't measure those things, but for some reason we sort of believe that you're almost unsophisticated if you talk about non-measurable things.
Hello.
Smart people don't do that. So we've really turned into a very overly deductive society, and so a lot of this is going to be highly intuitive to you. I think some of the feelings you will feel during this session, and you're going to say, I knew that. I know that. So there's nothing in this, what I'm about to show you, that you don't already know. I'm just going to show it to you alive and how they connect. You know all this. There's nothing that I'm saying that's brilliant. You know it. So it's very intuitive. And so when you say, what should Vietnam, what can I teach Vietnam? I can't teach anything of Vietnam. The hope is that Vietnam can think about some of the things I'm saying and say, oh, I know that, and apply it to the year. Right? So I spent 3 years in Vietnam. I know very little things about people in Vietnam other than I saw constantly with these people.
I'm going to go quickly through this. I spent a lot of time in schools while in Vietnam. I love kids, high school teacher. I'm teaching in the classroom again these days. You know, this is important. In February of 2025, I was asked to keynote the Business School Dean's Global Conference. So it was 2 keynote speakers. It was me and Ethan Moffat, who is the head of AI at Wharton. And even the business school deans didn't understand why they were inviting me, and I had to say it to them. I was like, don't you understand? You're inviting Ethan and me because you're talking about decision making or agency. Even though my book mentions artificial intelligence just once, the entire book is about artificial intelligence, right? Because you have to talk about what does agency mean. I'm talking about artificial intelligence, right? So this is what they sent to me when they invited me and said, we wanted you to talk about the World Economic Forum and say, what should we be teaching our kids, our students, to let them be creative, resilient, flexible, curious, lead, social influence, and be analytical and have agility. These are all like these catchphrases, but it's so intangible, and they're often not teaching these things to the students. So I asked the business school deans, I'm like, what have you been teaching your students? For the last 30, 40 years, the predominant curriculum, Harvard has an outsized influence on curriculum. Sometimes really too much influence on curriculum. They've based their entire orthodoxy on General Electric. It's been really the Jack Welch School of Management for the last 30, 40 years. That was success. Remember, we're all talking about stories. What's success? GE was successful, Jack Welch. It's very symbolic, it's very male, right? It's very, like, certain segment American, and it was very, aggressive may be a good word. Like sort of like buy, slash, buy, slash, buy, slash. So what's happening these days, people are looking back at GE's track record and saying, was it successful? And so there are a bunch of books out these days, and the conclusion is, maybe not. Maybe it wasn't so successful. And so they've been teaching that orthodoxy, and it just shows you how important a storyline is, because it influences everything. Everyone follows, right? And saying, oh, that's success, so we have to do this. And so I guess a lot of this talk is going to be about being careful about which storylines you actually really listen to, particularly in a world that has increasingly become less entropic, but the natural state of nature is entropy. Like we're entering into an era of much more entropy and much more less homogenization. So I just sort of start with that. I don't have to sort of bore you with this, other than the fact that I've been sort of chirping about this since 2012, 13, 14, that the signs of civil war in the United States, the signs of 2008 global like financial calamity, they were already there. Nothing I'm saying here is, right? Clearly there was going to be interesting dialogue and tension between, quote, Western philosophy and, quote, Asian philosophy. We've all seen that coming, right? There's a big difference between civilizations and countries, right? So that's been another sort of source of tension. Some of the things I've been saying also, that increasingly, during times of chaos, there are always people or forms of technology that promise order. People get very uncomfortable in chaos and they get fearful. So there's always people or technologies that say, we'll take care of everything for you and we'll give you order. And I guess I sort of delight in chaos. Some of the other things that are going on right now is an existential question about what does it mean to be human. As we sort of stare down the singularity in potentially 3 or 4 years, what does it mean to be human? Okay, so these are big questions. And when you sort of put them all into one, there are a lot of people that are fearful. A lot of people profit off things when there's anger. Young people in particular, they don't know what to trust anymore. None of us do. But young people, they don't trust anything. I don't blame them, actually, right? And so really, what is real? Like, what really has value? What does really mean to be human? And these are questions that are much less finance and technology. This is humanities. Right? What does it mean to be human? This is why the humanities, I'm invoking the humanities into my private equity life. I'm going to go through this fast. You guys have all seen these books. It's not a surprise that Jonathan's book did so well, and Rhee's books did so well, and there are new books about how do you measure healthcare. A lot of the measurements of health, they're like accounting and finance. They're backwards looking, right? There's a whole movement of measurement saying, why are we measuring the wrong things? They're predictive analytics for health. A lot of the health data is as backwards as financial accounting, right? I'm going to get to that later. Rhee Dalio has been writing, this is 6 years ago, Rhee Dalio wrote about that, why nations succeed and fail, and his most recent book is about sovereign insolvency. He's basically writing about the United States going belly up. I'm glad Rhee's saying this because more people will listen to Rhee about macroeconomics than they will me. Good, because you need a chorus of people. It's not a surprise that some of the most popular books these days are on science fiction. Particularly science fiction written by women. Margaret Atwood is a woman. Octavia Butler is a woman. The Parable of the Sower. A lot of science fiction women writers, they don't write about like robots. They write about future conditions of dystopia, about how people are going to live. So a lot of the things playing out in science fiction, they've been predicting now for 50 to 80 years. That I've been reading a lot of science fiction. So I was like, they're smart. They see the future. And then, this was my TED Talk, and we're going to get to why I really talk about kindness. This chart next to it is hard for you to see, but this is the check correlation between GPT and humans and the distance you are from the United States of America. So the most human that GPT in terms of correlating humanity and the algorithms is the United States up on top. And the further and further you go down the line, ChatGPT, you are further away from the north than the north. You can imagine the country's way down there. Which continent do you think they're from? Africa. Right? And you go a little bit closer, which is the next continent? Asia. So clearly, we're not talking about technology here. We're talking about geopolitical power. We're talking about who controls the narrative of the future. In the past, you could rewrite a history because it was in ink. But these days, history is potentially becoming encoded in a way that it's being prescriptive in future behavior. Does that sort of resonate too? Right? So my whole life been in the business of reinventing things. Companies, as a teacher, I do it with people. It kind of stings if you have a bad history and you're stuck in it. And that's one of the biggest things I'm worried about, both psychologically in terms of loss of hope, despair, which is rampant in the world, and then there's a geopolitical order that every century has been reset for every century in the past, but there's an interest and potentially a possibility of preventing a natural reset of Okay, so that's some of the macro things I'm going to talk about when I talk about Ashley Stewart. I'm not going to say them again, but just think about this as and the book was written as a parable for a reason. So when I'm writing this book, this is not a story about me and my parents. It is, and this company called Ashley Stewart, with a group of awesome black women, the only ones who didn't laugh at me and did great things. There is a story of it. That's not really what I know. The last picture I'll show you, I find this to be humorous. So this is kind of cool that this book opened up as the #1 book in the United States. That wasn't easy. There are not many books written about an Asian immigrant couple and black women that are the #1 book in the United States. It defied algorithms on purpose, right? Because there was a lot of pressure to write a book that was very linear and very prescriptive, which is very in keeping with how people talk these days and say, do these 3 things in this order, you'll have success. And I think this is ridiculous. So this book was on purpose written in a very roundabout, crazy, parable way, forcing the reader to have agency and come to the reader's own conclusion. This is how I teach in the classroom as well. This is actually how I lead in companies. I'm like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Do it. Right? So too many people, these days are saying, I'm worried about the inclination to just have AI do it for them, right? So it's a question about AI, agency augmentation or agency replacement. It's being translated into a lot of languages. It's not a coincidence I'm here in Vietnam. It's not a coincidence that I'm going to Korea tonight for the 4th time in the last 2 years. I found that this picture is humorous too, because these are the stakes at which I'm thinking about, right? So these were the top 2 business books in the United States last September. It's Elon Musk and Red Helicopter. And people just laugh because they know what I'm saying, right? I'm like, which one do you want? Which system? We were very savvy technologically and mathematically at Ashley Stewart and what I do at Red Helicopter, but it always fronts humans, right? And there's a reason why I teach in the System Dynamics group at MIT. System Dynamics is human engineering, but you assume humans are not perfect. Right, so the question is, can humans really be perfect? Okay, lastly, and then I'm going to go into storytelling mode. Just think about everything I'm talking about, and this is how I teach, and the book is framed, is how do you sing 2 songs? Yourself, and then systems. Okay, so like neuropsych, genetics, biochemistry, you, your family, you, and then systems, law, economics, sociology, all the man-made systems, and then the natural systems that you can't change. Physics, right, biochem. This is how I'm it helps students teach, and then the way I wrote the book, it's sort of saying you can't change certain things, but certain things are complete conventions and storylines that you can do massive different transformational things just by getting people to sort of think about a different way of thinking. And all of a sudden things become very clear to you that you didn't think were possible. So here we go. Here's the story. I'm going to talk about all of these things in the next 6 slides. For those of you who haven't read the book, it's going to be helpful for me to show you this 3-minute movie. It's an original movie. It's original music. I didn't do that one, but it's, if you think about, we have 6-second attention span. So how do you use the most out of linear time? How do you, if you can do multimodal, multisensory communication, you can turn 6 seconds into more, right? It's using the whole verticality of time versus just linear. So you're going to see the entire story of the book, the entire story of my unlikely tenure as CEO of Ashley Stewart. You're also going to see Asian culture, Western culture, Asian music, Western music. It's written in E-flat major, which is the hero's key. You're going to hear Arirang, which is like Korea. It's my parents and this continent. You're going to hear Amazing Grace, which is Western and skews more of color Western, black.
And so listen to the music. Cello is my mom, violin is me, saxophone, little bit in a bachelor's story. The book was actually written as a piece of music on purpose, because music, it is the language of humanity. Right? So like with music, you can get people to feel and think of a different way. Right? It has to be emotional as well. And then we'll dissect this story. So what you just saw is 100 years, and I'm going to sort of break this down. So what you saw in the beginning, you have two grandmothers who survived the Korean War. They had my parents who survived the Korean War. And think about this in the context of Vietnam, okay, or just Beijing. So my mom lost her father during the Korean War. My dad's house was occupied by foreign entities that made his dad provide medical care. So he lived like this. I'm the son of two war survivors. They moved to America. This is what you saw. They tried to preserve traditions. They also wanted me to be very successful. And back then, being successful meant to be really American, which also meant being really not Korean. Right? So we were one of the only Asian families. We were one of the first, actually. I'm one of the first born in the United States. My brother was born in Korea and came. There are a lot of people of that generation born in Asia and then moved. I was born in the USA, so like 원주민인 국산. I'm 100% American. Sang rock and roll, played football, baseball. I grew up that way. And I led. I was captain of teams. I lead. which was not always comfortable for a lot of people. Okay, so think of that. Boy went to Harvard not once but twice. Right? No, don't clap. Everyone claps. I'm not asking you to clap. It's more sarcastic clap. Okay? Like parents said that's success. Go do that. Okay, I do that, right? They're like, older brother's a doctor. We don't care as much. Second son, you can do whatever you want. So private equity, we don't know what that is, but you're making a lot of money. That's what you're seeing. And seeing, what you're not seeing is my parents struggle a lot. You're not seeing inside in my heart, trying to reconcile being successful and really like loving my parents and their heritage. And I can't speak Korean. Maria reminds me every time. But partly for a reason. They didn't want me to. They used to say, you're like the best English speaker. You're the best communicator in English. Like, I'm pretty good at it. And they were proud. So that's how I grew up, which is not sort of atypical. Just generally think about it for many people, and also potentially some countries in Asia who sometimes think all the best answers are always other places. So I grew up thinking that maybe like certain cultures were not as good as certain cultures. Okay. So up until the age of 42, I was at the peak of, I am in the systems. I just am. I know everybody who runs the systems. They're my friends. I play golf with them. I play tennis with them. I'm one of the most assimilated Asian people in the United States. I was the least likely person to do what you just saw that I did. And I want to explain what happened. Does this make sense so far? This is the parable. Help. So, in 2013, I was 42. What you saw is that part where you heard the violin struggle. There was a company called Ashley Stewart. They didn't know their story correctly. People thought, no one cared about this company. All right, so think about it, female. I used to hear comments like, they're not even like skinny, like beautiful women, and they're black. I heard those comments all the time. And this company is very important to these women. It was, when I explained to them, they said, we just sell clothes. I said, I don't think so. Remember, I studied history too. I'm like, I think this might be the largest black women's company in the United States of America. And they said, what do you mean? We just grew up with them. They're in our neighborhoods. But they're only in black neighborhoods. They just weren't able to go above and see. And I said, that it is the largest black women's company in the United States of America. It is historically significant. They had been alive for 22 years, and they had never made money. They didn't have any technology, no Wi-Fi. What they had was like social glue. It was a community-based business, small business, and tied to church, and families would go in there together. It really reminded me of a lot of my, the Asian communities in America where you huddled together. That's what it was. So it brought back all these memories for me of my sad Korean parents, particularly my mom, they didn't have anybody. And so once a year we'd go into Queens after a Broadway show. That was our big treat. And my mom would go into a Korean grocery store, no H-Mart, just a little one. And my mom would act like a complete diva. She was so confident. But most of the time in America, my mom lived small. And so she lived through me. She was like my big son, and I hated it. I really did. During this time, my dad was dying after 13 years of Parkinson's. My dad took care of, he was the most conscientious pediatrician, but the medical system failed him. They were not interested in treating him because it wasn't worth it from an academic standpoint, right? People, at that point, if they can't improve you in Parkinson's, you're a waste of time. And he would say, what is this? What kind of nonsense is this? Isn't medicine in care? My mom was a nurse. Aren't you supposed to care for people?
and you don't care about me. And he's dying. My mom is carrying my father in the apartment because every time I try to solve the problem with money, my mom fires the nurse and says, yeah, it's just the two of us. There's always been just the two of us. I don't want other people in this house. Money can't solve that problem. And so this company was going bankrupt and liquidation. It was 6 weeks away, and that's when we met. And so for all these reasons, all these things, and by this time, I knew why this business would fail for 22 years. Give me a break. Like there was no plausible deniability. Like I went to Harvard Law School. I managed billions of dollars of money. I know why this company's not getting money. And so that's the picture of me with the women. So what happened during this time, I got permission from my wife, always. I said, I need 6 months away from home. I think I just want to figure out what the heck's going on here. Maybe I can get money for the company and I'll come back. And this was after 4 months of really getting to know the company, really understanding its value for these women and our country, and really understanding that the world said no. The world said there's no value in this company. Just like they thought there was no value here. Care, public school education, no one cares about anymore in the United States, by the way. I was like, you don't care? Well, you can't quantify you can't quantify the impact of teachers. Okay. So I had failed, and after this Christmas party, I had to tell the women that the one thing I thought I could deliver, which was money, I failed. Turns out, they said to me, they're like, it was not a great conversation, but they said, James, you delivered other things. The most human things. You tried. Like, we love you. We trust you. You have to think about this, right? For me, it was also a big relief. For 42 years, I had gone away from, my value of myself was money and credentials and fancy degrees. And the women, despite me having this face, they saw right through it and said, we think you are the right guy for this job. And it was profound for me, that they had the intuition. They're like, you care the most. And I said, I do. And then they used to say, you have so much soul, Italians, a lot of soul. And I said, oh, in Korean, you would say I have a lot of charm. You love the most Korean parts of me. They said, yeah, we do. And so that's where I was, okay? And so this is moments of agency and care. I had a big decision to make. And this is not about James. I really want you to keep thinking about the parable, like the metaphor. I thought to myself, one, am I going to take the easy road, the thing that everyone says to do, it's always worked in the past, which meant for me to say, well, I tried. I'll pretend it never happened. And I go back to my work. I knew I could call in favors to get money. I have enough of a network to get money. So I had to raise $18 million to buy the company at a bankruptcy court. I knew I could make a couple phone calls and get it, because people said, we trust you, we'll do it. The question was, what would the money do? Great, you save the company from bankruptcy. What's the point? If it's gonna play the same game again, it's gonna lose. If you're gonna play the same game again, you're gonna lose again. Does that make sense? Like, the system's not designed for those, it won't win. And so this is what I was thinking about, and I think the world's in a similar place here. Like, it was not a pleasant place to be in. You're alone, it's chaos.
What do you do?
And so this is why the book is called Red Helicopter. Because during these times, you know what? Kids and childlike wonder and imagination, creativity, this is what you need. Like, the past, like accounting, it doesn't work. It's complete forward looking, right? So I remember these things like this, and it's me asking, what's my origin story? What's Korea's origin story? What's Vietnam's origin story? What's the origin story? What's the origin story? And this was the best story I could find. I just remembered, who is James? James had a bowl cut in 1976. James was always the only Asian person in the room, ever. James sometimes used to get put in the corner because I would ruin pictures. True story, okay? James used to feed this kid half his lunch every day, because even though his parents didn't have a lot of money, because his mom was like the Korean mom, I had the best lunch every day of anyone. And so I had so much food that he never had lunch, so I would give half my lunch away. And I didn't think anything about it. So one day, this boy's dad gave me a toy for Christmas. And they did this. They didn't tell me why. I didn't put together the food and the toy. I just came home just psyched I had a toy. And I'm spinning it around, and then you have very Korean parenting happens, and the first reaction is not, hey, where'd you get the toy? You did something good? It's not that. It was, yo, did you steal the toy? Did you take the toy? I'm like, no. And so all these things happened. My parents then blamed themselves. They thought it was Christmas, and they said, were you the only one left out, that everyone have toys? We're sorry, we can't help you in America. We don't know the customs. And I said, no. It turns out, so they found out why I got it, and when my dad told me, instead of saying, oh, Take, you did a good job, Korean parents, they said he tested me. He wanted to see how strong I was. He said, why are you giving away half your lunch that your mom makes every morning for you, and we know we don't have a lot of money, why you feel so free to give away a sandwich? And it's one of the few times I stood up to my dad growing up, and I said, why wouldn't I? I have enough. And, my dad got very emotional during that time, because I'm sure as a father now, he must have been looking at me and said, wow, my boy he's my 5-year-old boy that has so much courage and lives so abundantly, and we are living so scarcely. Okay, I'm going to get to the neuroscience later. You cannot be generous and kind and abundant and creative when you are scared. It is neurologically impossible for you to have that. So I had confidence. I was intuitive. I did not mistake education for wisdom. I solved the problem. This was a high agency story. Problem, I want to do it, not because I'm getting a good grade, not because someone's paying me. I'm going to fix the problem in the way that I know how to do it. That's what I thought about. That's why the book is called Red Helicopter. And I'm asking the entire world in this chaos, what is your red helicopter story? What is it? Can you say it so simply and check all the boxes of neurological agency? Why are you fixing the problem? Can you imagine a new solution? Because the last 80 years, it ain't going to be the next 80 years. It's just not. So these playbooks, there was no playbook here. I had to invent it. It's all applied learning, music creation, okay? So this is why that is called that. So how do you explain this now to the rest of the world? I said, no, we have a new idea. I know it's lost money for 22 years. I know it's last place. I know you don't like the company, but I have an idea. Most of the work, they all said no. But to my team, I said, you can't, I have to change your mind. It's not a clothing business. What? It's not. And so I couldn't prove it. You can't put this in a McKinsey PowerPoint. There's no Excel formula. There's no, app. So when you have to change someone's mind, a storyline, it's music or art, right? Something that inspires people. And so I found this video and I played it for the company and ultimately everyone. And I said that I felt that this was Ashley Stewart. this feeling, what it did. This is kindness, because people kept saying, what's kindness? And you don't say, go read about it. I said, let me show you what kindness is. And I said, this is what the brand does. I play this whole video to every person was required to watch it, every vendor, landlord, anyone. I said, this is Ashley Stewart. This is what kindness looks like. Beyonce, who's always number one, plays number two. And she made this woman better. That's what I said, this is what we do. And to the women in the stores, I said, this is what you do. And they said, oh yeah, that is what we do. I'm like, it's awesome. My mom did this as a nurse. My dad did this as a pediatrician. I did this as a high school teacher. This is great. It's worth saving. And it has value. We just have to figure out why something like this, which clearly has value, why does accounting not value it? If we can figure out that, then all the operations will follow, and we're going to make a ton of money. Because this is in very short supply. No one cares about anybody anymore. If you can really do it and people trust it, it has value, and it does have economic value too. You just have to be careful to not be manipulative. It has to be real and let the money flow. And so that was sort of the, how do I do this? Obviously, I'm talking about humanity as a whole right now. Are you sure GDP is an accurate measurement of a country's wellness? Pretty sure it's not. Pretty sure it doesn't measure all of the unhealthiness, suicide, depression, failed Alzheimer's solutions that are all off balance sheet liabilities that are going to punch people in the face in the next 20, 30 years. All the failures of public school education in the United States, it's going to crush that country in 20, 30 years. But today it seems fine. We know this. So the way I capture this, again, thank God you were not in the room. You might have laughed at me at the time. I said, hey, I know. Look at the way I dress. I get it. I'm not a woman. I know. I'm not black. I get it. I've never been CEO. I know. But maybe if we can operationalize kindness instead of accounting, but math, maybe that's the truth. Math is truth. Kindness is the highest form of humanity. It's an investment, right? So that's what I was saying, is that if we can't find the truth, then we're going to repeat the patterns of the past. Let's just be honest. And so kindness is very forceful. It's very direct. But you have to care. It's like your best teacher that says to you, what's your name again? You didn't do a good job today. You know, and it's like, but you know, I want you to do better for yourself. That's what kindness is, isn't it? It's not like, it's not for me. So when I think about, you may ask, what's a leader, when a kind leader? You hear these words. A kind leader is told this, sorry I disappointed you. And a kind leader says, you didn't disappoint me, you disappointed yourself, right? A kind leader hears this word a lot. I'm so inspired to work here. I'm so inspired to be part of this problem. Why? Because the root of the word inspire is to breathe. When someone says you inspire me, they're saying you've given me a chance to breathe. I feel like I can breathe. And that's significant because people are not breathing right now. And when you breathe, it means you're activating the same parasympathetic nervous system that yoga does and meditation does. Parasympathetic nervous system, it unlocks the best part of your prefrontal cortex. Okay, so this is a neurological impact of kindness. It's not just, oh, it's so nice. It is distinctly related to your parasympathetic nervous system, which we didn't have the science for 20 years ago to really explain. And I want to say this, I'm spending a lot of time on this because this is going to be the meat of the Q&A. I'm not the only one who wrote about said kindness. It turns out that the father of liberty, Rousseau, and Adam Smith, they were pen pals. They wrote about secular kindness during the 18th, 19th centuries. Because kindness is about agency. Capitalism and democracy are attempts to create systems that acknowledge and reward agency in not a mutually destructive way. Right? That's what free markets, people want for themselves, liberty, they want freedom. How do you devise a system, though, where people can live together and work as a team? They wrote about kindness. It's fundamentally about agency. And that's why the issues of AI today are so important. When you hear words like agentic AI, people just throw it out. It's like PR agency, marketing agency. No, it's not. How much are you going to allow AI to take your agency away? Or our kids, which we've been allowing them to do for many years on social media. And we know it's 100% neurological. You're going to also ask me, what does agency look like? And I'm going to show you now what it looks like. So many of you you're all here because you care. I'm sure you get this in your life from people in your lives. For me, this is what agency looks like. 3 years into my journey at this company, our results were absurd. Like, we made a lot of money, okay? Like, it was shocking. Our e-com business, shocking. Everything was shocking. And the world went, oh my gosh, we were wrong. I was like, yeah, you're wrong. Because you didn't value the things I saw in these women, in me, relationship between me and these women. I thought about my parents all the time. You didn't appreciate their value either. So one day my dad died. It was not great. Same week my daughter almost died. Those of you who read the book, it's a really bad chapter. It's a really bad week. Same week. And I lied and told everyone I was on vacation because I didn't want to bother them, which is a very Asian thing to do, by the way, right? You don't want to trouble anybody, which is nice, but let's be real. Sometimes you need help, and I should have asked for help, and I didn't. So I didn't ask for help. And so in my parents' funeral, my dad's funeral, my mom was wearing her hanbok, and all of the Korean immigrants that helped raise me were there together. You know, Korean, they smack your face. They're like, oh, James, you've gotten old and you've gained a little weight. Like this, I felt like a kid again. My dad's sitting here. My dad didn't understand what I was doing. It was sad. He was a little disappointed, I think, that I was doing what I was doing. I was like, Dad, you'd be proud if you really understood what I was doing. But what happened, in walked the frontline workers, black women. They walked into the funeral home, and they surprised me. And this was the only time my mom met Ashley Stewart. And so they came up to my mom in her hanbok. Picture like culturally what's going on. They said, hey, Mrs. Rhee. And my mom's English not so good. She's like, hello. They said, we just want you to know, like, we like your son. Like, you did a good job with your son. And then my mom looks at me, and then she understood. She's like, oh, this whole thing is that you designed a system for me. I did, Mom. I have the skill set now. When I was little, I would fight people who picked on my mom. But now at 40-something, I didn't have to fight. I drew and moved money and built tech stacks to do it, right? And then they came up to me and they said, James, you didn't tell anyone your dad died. And then they yelled at me. And they said, how come you didn't ask for help? I'm like, I don't know. I was like, and I kept asking myself, that's so stupid. It's pride. And then I cried. And I felt very successful. I looked at the entire funeral. When you ask what's success, that's the most successful day of my life. We hadn't even made all the money yet from selling the company. That was success. It was all there. I just want you to think about that. Like when students ask me, what's success? I tell them this story. I'm like, I think that was success. And I kept saying to myself, I think I did a good job. Okay? And so they made this video for me to show me that they knew why we did what we did. And so I think what you're about to see are the faces and the words of agency. And I want you to see how much you can unlock by just unlocking people's agency. And the good news from a financial perspective, because I know we're talking about money, when you don't invest any money, but you're investing social capital, your numerator, the money that comes out, your returns are absurd. My returns over the last 20 whatever years are over 160% per year because I'm investing social capital and I get paid in financial capital. And as a financier, that's good, isn't it? Like, returns are good. And so I just want you to all understand, like, this is not just good, but as you think about it in the future, when people don't trust and we're losing humanity, could it be that being really human is a really strategic advantage when no one else is doing it? Might you get the best people? Might they stay longer? Might you get the most creative minds? Maybe they'll work harder at work, care more. None of those things I just said are measured in your financial statements. Not one number. Okay? So this is what I think agency looks like.
This is the Ashley Stewart story. The story
of you and I.
We are a fashion brand, but we offer so many different things to women and to the community that other plus-size clothing companies don't.
I am Ashley Stewart. She is every woman. She's that woman who is broken. She's that diva.
The fact that Ashley Stewart is there to speak for those women who don't have that voice, because they can come into the store and they're like, oh, she cute.
Ashley Stewart was founded in 1991
in Brooklyn, New York. You can come in here and whether you buy something or not, you're going to leave with all the tools that you need to take on all those challenges that society throws at you.
Ashley Stewart is a story of neighborhood girl.
Gone global.
We give so much back.
Ashley Stewart movement is just to be global, to embrace our community, to embrace our customers.
There was this one customer that came in all the time, and she came in with a return. I go to give her the return slip, and I said, Mama, will you sign this? And she was like, sure, baby, no problem. We became family in that one single moment. Fast forward a few years, Katrina happened. I was in a store working, and she came in. And the moment she came in, she just started crying. And she was like, my baby. And that just started from a simple return.
The toughest moment that I had working with Ashley Stewart was when I received a phone call that we were going into bankruptcy. I thought I was going to lose my best friend. What was going to happen to these relationships that we had? Where was that customer going to go?
It was bad, but if we stay in it together, we can fix it. Everything he said that he was going to do, he did.
The store that I was actually working in was one of the stores that closed. At that point, it was just like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
You have to have enough faith to know that this too shall pass.
The moment I felt comfortable was when, after the bankruptcy and then James takes over and we had this meeting, he came down here and he says, hey, this is what we're going to do. Can you see us in 3 years? And we're going to do the Facebook, and you know about the Instagram.
Social media is the future. Us reaching that girl who may not have the Ashley Stewart in her area, her to see what goes on inside of our four walls is very important.
We had more power this time. Our voice was louder. And it wasn't always that way that we built. We were survivors. Ashley Stewart customers and people that work there, who are our first customers, were survivors. We persevere. That's kind of how, I see the brand now.
The Ashley Stewart movement is bigger than all of us, really, but yet it's all of us together. It's going to take over the world, and it's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Why do I love Ashley Stewart? Simple. I love Ashley Stewart because
just a fashion company. It is a movement.
Movement.
Are you ready to join?
So clearly they understood that Ashley Stewart was a metaphor for something much bigger. And so the world started understanding that. And I cried when they gave me this video. I cried a lot. But it was one of the most meaningful things I've ever received. And so the world started hearing it. We told the story again and said, do you understand now? And so you can't see it. These are the leaders of the largest industries in the world. This is the CEO of Price Waterhouse, CEO of Walmart, head of Salesforce Commerce Cloud, head of Facebook's product marketing. I know all of them. I brought them back and I said, I'm not mad at you. 3 years ago you laughed at me. It's okay. But now you see it. Don't say no now. And I don't want your charity, I want your best. Give me your best. The best tech stack, I want the best. And these women deserved it, and they got the best. And our results were just shocking. Okay, so think about this. In 3 years, with this laughingstock company that never made money, that was bankrupt twice, that had no Wi-Fi, we keynoted the biggest tech conferences in the world in 3 years. And there are a lot of people who say to these women, oh, you just need to wait 30 years. No, they don't have to wait 30 years. It's not going to happen. And so as you think about transformation right now, I like chaos. Because whether I'm talking about Asia or Vietnam or whatever other group that maybe was not first place, you can make big jumps right now. But the answer, I don't think, is anger and fear. I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm pretty sure it revolves around a concept of really investing in your origin story and agency, which is, in MIT speak, it's distributed decision making. Right? That's what agency is. It's distributed decision making. It's saying, make a decision. Right? Make a decision. You can do it. So I'm running out of time. I want to leave. I'm going to skip this section because this is the pedagogy. Oh, why is it doing this? Okay. So, thank you. So I'm going to skip this because we're going to hit this during the Q&A. I'm just going to show you the pedagogy, systems thinking, brain science, feedback loops, different accounting, not GAAP, actually human accounting. It keeps, Zoom is popping.
Yeah, we just click into that one, yes.
I'm going to show you examples, but I'm not going to present because I'm going to show you the limitations of accounting and balance sheet. So we're going to go through this. It's really doing everything a little bit backwards, right? And realizing a lot of what we've learned in school is reminding us it's just a convention. It doesn't capture truth. And so we'll go through this. But I just want to very quickly show you what Red Helicopter is doing, give you some inspiration and also affirmation. Because some of you may feel, and this is also for people like Ha or you, where sometimes you might feel alone and say, why am I the only one who thinks like this? And I'm going to show you pictures. You're not. There's a lot of people involved, and one of the reasons for Red Helicopter is just to invite people and say, why don't you all meet? Because there are many more of you than you think. This is what Red Helicopter looks like in pictures. I really am having a hard time with this rolling. All right. These are the chapters of the books. We're going to go through this process.
Yeah.
These are very intentional. How do you find agency? It's a process of finding your agency. It's sequential, but also systemic, like music. So when you read the book, think of it it's moving, right? It was the #1 book in the United States. That's not luck. It's tapping into something that people are like, I knew it. I just didn't have the words. I knew it. It's in all the major companies. Like, think about affiliations, Howard University, MIT, Duke, and I teach at Yale now. That's not by chance, right? These are entrepreneurship communities who want to change systems, on big global companies that have the desire to realize that incremental change right now is not going to work. They're calling. It's Citibank and JP Morgan. It's the mayors. This is Sweden, Sony Music, leading schools. This is the person who published The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, the Horse, and who works with Thich Nhat Hanh. So all these like thinking people are sort of saying, oh, this is what this is, red helicopter, I got it. These stories of an immigrant Korean couple and black women are being told, and I'm intentionally telling it on the biggest stages of leadership in the world. Because it's time for more people with different backgrounds to be leading. It's all the protagonists in the book are women. I'm the dumb man who finally at the end realizes that his mom was the best leader he's ever met in his life, and I was wrong to ever doubt her. She never lost her agency, ever. And so I'm turning everything upside down, particularly as you feed algorithms. There have to be more examples. When you put in what's leadership, you have to see different faces. And you don't see them. Try it. You're not going to see it. It's spreading city by city. Finally, the Koreans finally called last year and said, "Choa, we like it." I said, "Oh, really? Good. Because why don't you apply it to yourself?" Because Korea is growing remarkably. It's not doing so well sociologically. And I keep asking them, is that success? And so one of the reasons why I'm thrilled to be in Vietnam right now is just I hope Vietnam grows really successfully. And it's up to Vietnam to define what that means. But I really hope you grow successfully. The young people love the book. This is one of the #1 K-pop stars in the world. This is Ha Yoonjin, the Seraphim. I woke up one day and there's a young woman with 10 million Instagram followers saying, "This is my favorite book." I'm like, what's going on? And so this past March, we're singing Born to Run in front of 3,000 Korean kids. It's ridiculous. And so this has all the markings of a movement, right? This is now, you're tapping into something that people haven't named yet. So this is all the Korean, I don't like you, Zoom. I applied this to other companies. It's the 5th largest senior living business in the United States. They forgot they were in the business of actually caring for old people. We took a company that was 2 months away from bankruptcy. They just sold it for 6 times their money. You can see the numbers. The biggest key we learned was that their frontline employees were hungry. So we invested $5-6 million and we fed them the same meal that the seniors get, a nutritious meal. And they really understood it. We made a huge investment in their people. That wasn't the only thing, but it was critical. There's an app coming, which I'll skip. This is now an ex-Google AI PM. We put the whole curriculum into an immersive app, so you can actually feel it. You can fly the helicopter of you. So kids can really sort of fly in the future in life and feel what it feels like, agency, right? To feel it. We're building a social network site that's not social media. It's true connectedness, real friends, so people aren't lonely anymore. There's a kids book coming. This is the Upside Down Hedgehog giving picture kids books. In December, there's a musical that's making its debut at Yale. It's the Red Helicopter musical, so we're composing a full musical. Think about Hamilton on stage. And so we want to sort of release this in Asia at the same time. And this is the former Secretary of Education of the United States under Barack Obama. So last week in New York, President Pratt, Chancellor Rutgers, they are all reading this book and saying, maybe the future of education is not just vertical. We really have to get young people to understand everything they're learning is agency, self, and then systems. And so it's a reframing of what you're teaching. Anyway, this is what it looks like in a curriculum, and then I'm going to stop. I just want to put it all out there. I went too long. Oh, don't be mad at me. I did my best. There's just too much. And that's, and I just want to end with this. This is the epigraph of the book. Just that voice in the back of your head that you've always had. Your kids have it, your student. It's your conscience. So in many ways, Red Helicopter, it's your conscience talking to you. And that voice, there's only so long you can stifle it. And you can stifle it till you're 90 years old and then have regrets and say, This voice, it's not always rational. Because it wants something like, it's useless and you don't understand, but it's beautiful, right? And it's good. And what Tolstoy wrote, it's important, but you have to identify it, name it, and do it. Right? It takes hard work. And so in many ways what Red Helicopter is, it's a symbol of agency. It's also your conscience. I think it's really meant to be a symbol of what does it mean to be human. I'm just trying to remind people and saying, you're not an algorithm. And I think that for groups that are not in the #1 slot right now, you have to play a new game. And the world is giving you the tools to do it. It's really exciting, actually, to do it right now. And that, I'll open it up for just any Q&A, and sorry I went long, but that's sort of, don't clap, because then it's over. This is just like, it's a party, it's just that one person has had the mic for too long. I just put it all out there, and then I'm going to give the mic away, and we can just talk about anything you want to talk about.
We cannot even clap.
No clapping!
We have to do something like, You want to make a question?
Yes.
Before you make a question, I recommend we do something very, very little right after you have to understand that some of us will see this is just a story. Through your lives too. We are learning about you and from you. So before we make a question, I would like us to think about something we can reflecting about the red helicopter. The moment that we realize our, human agency or red helicopter, the kindness part, and just maybe answer the question is, he think about the red helicopter back into his childhood. Do we have any of that? I will think about Uncle Ho gift when I was have a good girl back then. And the whole story here is we would have only half an hour, I think, as a program to discuss about it. But I really hope that we all will be able to reflect and think about that message. Because among a lot of questions, I was there. I feel like I have so many questions to ask about. So that is something I would love you to do, and then we come into discussion. Okay, here you go.
So I can go with the question?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I wondered, how did being a teacher prepare you to lead a company like this? What did you get from that? How long were you a teacher? And how did that help you prepare you for this enormous success?
So I'm going to answer that question in 2 or 3 ways. One, a lot of what I'm talking about is the state of being and not being defined by a job. So I believe that I am a teacher. Even when I was a private equity professional or CEO, my being is I'm a teacher. And
that's #1. And so when I meet people too, I rarely ask them what they do for a living. You won't ever hear me ask you that. I just want to get to know you. Like, how are you spending your
time? Like, what's interesting to you? And so I don't do that. So think about it from an algorithmic standpoint too. It's not labelable. So that's number one. So I am a teacher. It's a state of being. I think I am a caregiver. I think teachers give care. How it's prepared me is as follows. Here's the funny answer. I have taught, classroom teaching is hard. I've run a dorm, I've coached football and baseball. Whenever I'm in a boardroom, I'm like, this is easy. Have you ever tried to manage 80, 15-year-old kids to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night when they don't even listen to their parents? So it was leadership in the classroom. There was a lot of agility. And the last thing, more serious thing, is that really good teachers, they're not defined right. Really good teachers are the best learners. I think great teachers constantly are curious. They're learning from their kids. Great teachers, like great leaders, do not blame the students first for not understanding something. They look to themselves and say, I did not communicate this clearly. It's my fault. And so that's why, from a multimodal standpoint, whether you respond in numbers or music or art or words or poetry, I've been thinking of ways, how do you communicate the same idea and people get it? And so a lot of my work now has been, there are a lot of people who have been very excluded from learning about money because of the way it's taught. That's why in the book I teach accounting through a lemonade stand. I'm like, you got this, it's easy. And so I want to put more money in the hands of people who are perfectly able to understand money. It's pretty easy, but they've been intimidated by it. Right? The classroom setting intimidated them, or the way it's taught, it's just not, they don't like it. And so 60% of learners are visual learners. AI, one of the most exciting parts of AI, it can make really difficult things to see visual. And so I think the future of teaching and learning has always been visualization, but literally I think AI can help things make it visual. That's my answer to you. So the most important job I've had was teaching high school. It was the most important decision I made, was those 2 years in teaching high school. Yeah, I think about it all the time. Yeah.
We have some teachers here, and you're one of them. We really want to hear this all talk about education in Vietnam and the start of everything. We call it a low starting point, how fast we can grow in terms of education and define our future success.
We were just at the Temple of Literature, and it was very moving to be there. Speaking of which, yeah.
Is anyone, is the teachers, professor, would like to have a comment or a question? I would love to hear your red helicopter moment.
No question.
You are the teacher too. Yeah.